A real quick shout out to the guest speakers on the Pixel Panel episodes of Retro Reloaded. These are heroes that don't wear capes, but maybe some of them they do. They've been filling in for me doing episodes each week so that Retro Reloaded thrives while my voice problems cease to exist for months. Thank you all for being such a great community. Also, quick shout out to our grandstanding 64-bit legend Zero for being such a great supporter of the show. Mega Man should be jealous of the camaraderie. Then at the 16-bit adventurer tier, we have many longtime warriors, including Marcus Q, Gage, Tetrafolly, and Oriok. Then we can't forget our 8-bit explorer time with longtime supporters such as Wabi Yurt, Ware Coon Warden, Gaming Quarterly, Big Nick Dika. Again, thank you for everything.
Hey there! Welcome to Retro Reloaded. I'm your host Lance, and each week I tackle a retro game shaped by your picks. If you want a chance to choose next week's game or unlock exclusive bonus episodes and polls, join me on Patreon at patreon.com/retroreloaded. There's even a free tier to dip your toes in. Big thanks for all of your love and support. It means the world to me. Now let's hit the start button and reload those retro vibes.
Hello, and you are listening to Retro Reloaded, and it's another Pixel Panel show. I am your host for today, John, aka Xhojn, on Discord, and with me I have my good friend and partner in crime, Martin. Say hello, Martin.
Hello.
Hello. How are you doing, Martin?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you very much. Pleased to be here.
Thank you for joining me, because I asked you literally just earlier today, would you like to jump on and do this show with me? And you were like, yeah, sure. So thank you for dropping everything at short notice and coming aboard.
Pleased to be here, of course. So looking forward to it.
Cool, and your check will be in the post after the show's finished. And long-time listeners will probably have realised by now that neither of us is Lanceroy. I'm afraid that he is still under the weather. It's still difficult for him to speak, but he hopes to be back soon, or a sentient AI bot has taken over his role in Discord and is just going to be farming out Pixel Power shows until he can't do it anymore. So either way, we hope you get better soon, Lanceroy, or the sentient AI doesn't come and take our jobs. Anyway, our subject for today. Drum roll, please. Why you should own a retro console in the year 2025. So, Martin, do you think we should own a retro console in the year 2025?
Well, would you like the short answer or would you like the long answer?
I think we're here for quantity, not quality. So please go for the long answer.
Okay, well, the short answer is, of course, going to be yes anyway, because you might as well throw that out there. But, of course, the long answer is the whole reason we are here. So I'm hoping we can let everyone hear some very good reasons for why they should probably own a retro console. But of course, there's a lot of options, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. So when people look back on like the consoles of their youth, looking at the NES, the SNES, the Master System, the Mega Drive, the Game Boy, the Game Gear, and so forth and so forth. And then people think about the games that they grew up with, the ones they're nostalgic for. And sometimes you can have rose-tinted glasses of those games, and sometimes you go back to them and you are just reminded of how great they are. You have so much fun, and ones that maybe you struggled to beat back in the day, you can now finish the games. Like, for example, I could never beat Quackshot on the Mega Drive as a kid, but I finally beat it 7-8 years ago when I moved house, plugged my Mega Drive in, and thought, oh, let's give it a try. Finally beat it. But there are other games which time has not been kind to, shall we say. But that is not what I'm here to talk about, or not what we're here to talk about, because if you follow the retro game collecting scene, it's getting a bit expensive, isn't it? It's not cheap. I don't know, what was have you picked up many retro games recently? Original library stuff, I mean, and was it expensive for you?
Well, as you probably know, I've picked up quite a lot of things recently. I think looking at different regions and things like that definitely varies the cost, but certainly there's quite a lot of physical media out there that's certainly going up in price, and the last 4 or 5 years with world events certainly hasn't helped matters any.
Exactly. So when I wanted to raise this subject about why you should own, something in year 2025, I was not actually looking at the original libraries, because we're not going to get into the issue of getting ROMs of original games or piracy or anything like that. But I was going to throw it out there that a lot of the games, the original devs or publishers, if you buy a copy off of eBay, they're getting nothing from that. That being said, there are actually a lot of games which have been re-released onto platforms like, say, Steam, where if you buy on there, you can actually download the ROM and shove it onto an EverDrive, a flash cartridge, and you can actually run on original hardware. So in some cases, it's possible to buy digital copies of original Mega Drive games and run them legitimately. Because there are some publishers out there who, until Sega pulled the classic Mega Drive stuff, you could buy them on there and actually put them onto your flash cartridge. But there are some other publishers who've put up their games or have bought the rights to certain games. So, yeah, there's some that I purchased, but again, that's not what we're here for. Because I want to talk about things that have either were not released back in the day, because either they were cancelled or they were only region locked to places like Japan, but have now seen a wider release, or brand new games, which we have some stacks with us. But before we get into that, there are different ways of actually being able to enjoy these things. So, for example, I got behind me my original Model 2 Mega Drive, and I know, Martin, that you have your original Mega Drive as well.
I do and I don't. So my original Mega Drive 2 actually broke, and I sold it for parts, but I did actually manage to pick up another one. So I have a Mega Drive 2, even if it isn't my original one that I owned. And, well, I've got loads of other things besides, but that's obviously the Mega Drive console I first owned, even if it wasn't the one I started out with playing.
But you've also then, you were telling me before the show, you've picked up some other bits of that you can use to play some original cartridges.
Yeah, so obviously I also have a Mega Drive 1 as well, so tried and true, the two original ways of playing the cartridges. But there are newer consoles that you can play it on. I believe Hyperkin have got an incoming Mega Drive console, which is going to operate a bit like the Nintendo Switch, where it will dock and you can play it on the television, or you can play it handheld like the Nomad used to be, and it takes original Mega Drive cartridges. And I believe there was an Act Games miniature Mega Drive, which was of dubious emulation quality, but also took original cartridges. And didn't you say that there was another console that you yourself had?
It's not one that I've got, but it's one that I remember seeing advertised in the past, which is the Retron or the Retron 5, which was a multi-cart device that lets you plug in say NES, Mega Drive, Game Boy, to allow you then to output say HDMI and go to the TV. Again, I'm not sure about the build quality of these, but if you have the actual physical cartridges and want to be able to play them on one television, then that sounds like a great way to do it. And there have been companies who have been developing new versions of old consoles. I think it's the Mega SG, I think is the Mega Drive version, and that company is also releasing an N64 console to be able to play those original cartridges. So some of these can be a bit expensive to buy, but if you don't have the hardware and you're looking for a way to play play physical cartridges now, then there are options out there which will just plug into your TV. You don't need to worry about adapters to go from, say, coax or SCART into a HDMI television. Yeah, so that's one way of doing it. Emulation is the one that probably people are most familiar with outside of having the original hardware and playing on a computer. But then if you use emulation in that way from a computer, then there's no need to have the physical cartridges. But then moving on, we get to why I I've been so passionate about this is because over the last several years, yes, there have been some games that I've picked up, things like, looking at the shelf, like Another World, for example. Also, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, because I had Sonic compilation I got on my Mega Drive, but I got Sonic the Hedgehog 2, so I can actually put into Sonic and Knuckles and have Knuckles and Sonic, Sonic 2. But the things I've actually been spending more money on, and actually the things that are my wider purchases, are homebrew and aftermarket games. For those who are unfamiliar, so I said earlier on about some games that were region locked. So these are things like, say, Eliminate Down, Glay Lancer, and I know that Martin has a couple of he'll say in a moment, but these are games that were either only ever released in Japan, so they never received an official English translation until now. There have been fan patches, but to actually be able to buy a legitimate copy could be done till now. But then there are games which were being developed, but then cancelled, but have now seen a physical release, because there are publishers who are picking up these games that were nearly finished and then say, okay, we'll finish the work, we'll do the translation and get them out the door. And I know that you said one to me. Do you want to tell our guests what that was?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually got it right next to me at the moment. Basically P47-2 MD is the rather classy name given to the sequel to P47, funnily enough. So P47-2 was actually supposed to come to the Mega Drive back in I believe it was 1990 or 1991, and it got cancelled, rather unfortunately. And earlier this year, Retrobit managed to secure rights to it, finish it off, and actually did a really, really nice physical copy of it. So the original game was by Jalico, but they've obviously managed to get hold of it, and I've got in my hands a really, really nice physical copy of it, which runs on all original hardware. Obviously, Japanese copy, maybe not because of the size of the cartridges, but you can slot it into either an NTSC-U or a PAL Mega Drive and it'll work absolutely fine. It's great to see these games that never were coming back, basically.
Mm-hmm. So there are two platforms, I guess, that I want to there's two platforms that I personally kind of collect for, but we'll mostly talk about one of them, because otherwise I don't want this show to go on all day. But the two are the Mega Drive, which you probably could have guessed by the amount we'll talk about it, but the other is the Game Boy. The reason why we're seeing such a huge increase in these homebrew games is because of development tools that make it easier to develop. So for the Mega Drive, that's the SGDK, and for the Game Boy, that's Game Boy Studio. So it's allowed people who never would have thought they could ever be a game dev to then create their own games and then get them released. And I mentioned earlier about having, say, an EverDrive or a flash cartridge. Trying to get your game physically distributed could be quite daunting, like getting PCBs, getting the cases, the manuals, getting the labels, all that kind of stuff, putting together and then posting out. Because a lot of people who do these physical releases, the biggest costs isn't really the game being developed, is actually the physical side, actually being able to put this, getting the parts and putting them all together. But that's where selling a flash cartridge would be quite good, because you can use a website like itch.io. Itch.io? I don't know, I guess people call it different things. But you could put your game up there, and then it allows people to either pick their own price, or you could say a couple of quid, or I think the most I've spent maybe about £10, I think, from Itch. But because you're just getting the ROM, the dev doesn't have to worry about the physical cost. And then you can either write on an emulator on your computer or your phone, or do what I do, which is I have a flash cartridge for my Mega Drive and a flash cartridge for my Game Boy. And then I can run it on the actual hardware, because then by extension of that, there's a publisher for homebrew games called Incube 8. They've done a lot of releases, but I'm also part of the QA program for them. So a lot of the homebrew Game Boy games I've played recently have actually been as part of their QA program, because one of the games that is going to be released next and is currently going through the QA process is one called Infinity. It's an RPG that was to be released for the Game Boy Color, but got cancelled. So they picked it up, did a very successful Kickstarter that has been delayed because they didn't realize that the game wasn't as complete as they thought it was. Like, if I read correctly in their update, like none of the the bosses just weren't there, and there's a bunch of like scripted sequences that weren't there, and they've had redone a bunch of stuff. So it's taken longer, but they've been very like forthcoming with like updates and keeping people like in the know. Because then the flip side is that on Mega Drive there was a RPG that was also successfully kickstarted, but there was a period of time where there were no updates, and that was causing quite a bit of backlash from those who pledged money, because like there have been Kickstarters that have been successful and then nothing ever appears. So people then, put their money forward with nothing to show for it. Since then, though, the company has come out and said, like, sorry, there was like some health issues and things. We should have like done better, but this is where we are. This is what was going on. And so it's kind of like restored some faith. But so there's a right way and a wrong way to do these things. But game development has changed because now you can be part of the process of actually getting it funded or, getting it made, but then also be involved with, say, actually quality assurance. Like, so going back to the Incubate stuff, if you're part of the QA program, you can actually then get the final ROMs for free. You still, if you want a physical, you still have to buy the physical, but it's great. Like, if you just want to try some games and don't necessarily have the space on the shelf or have the money to buy them, but still want to play, it's brilliant for that. Because I know that I've talked about some of them with you as well, Martin, but I don't think you have a Flash cartridge yet for your Game Boy. I think that's one thing you said about getting in the future.
No, I actually do have one now.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, that's news to me. So which one did you go for?
No, I picked one up as well as one for the Game Gear at the same time, and I've had them for about 3-4 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing what you've been doing and actually downloading a few ROMs that people have, like homebrew devs, have actually been putting up for the Game Boy, as well as obviously playing all my original cartridges that I still have.
Yeah, because then another developer / publisher for the Game Boy, which you've bought some games from them. So the ones who've done the Chromatic console, which is a new style Game Boy, which actually has a pretty nifty feature of the ability to update. So if they sell you a game, you can actually update it. So for example, if you buy the Chromatic, you get their version of Tetris. The game didn't release with a multiplayer mode, but that then has been patched in. I mean, it should be argued that maybe games should be 100% complete. But at the same time, if they want to do features that maybe they never even thought of, but then the computer like, maybe you should do this, that they could then do a free update. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't have one myself, but the people who I know who have picked one of those up have been very complimentary of the hardware, because I know that you picked up several of their games.
I did, yes. They're not the only ones that do that. The Evercade also does that, where the console can connect to the internet, and when it downloads an update for any physical games that you have plugged in, it will actually flash the ROM on the cartridge and update it, so it basically remains updated on the physical cartridge for the rest of time. So it's a very handy feature.
Oh, definitely. Exactly. And then hopefully when they do new batches of those games, they will have the latest version. Because I know that there are those in the game collecting scene who, like somebody who said to me the other day, so there's a game that just got released. I was about to say, Oh, Sweet Caroline, but that's not the title. But it's like a horror game, and that's probably means nothing to you. I am going to quickly check what it was, because the reason why I'm mentioning this is that the physical release someone picked up. Oh, sorry, by Sweet Caroline, that's it. There's actually a bug within it that is impeding progress, and the devs are like, oh, well, sorry, we'll get this sorted. But then one of the guys said, well, that means my physical is no longer like the complete game. So you have to have a patch to make it work. Because sadly, there are games that get delisted, and the only way to play them in the future is if you've the physical game. But then there's also a potential future where you might even be able to get the patches. I mean, we're not there yet, but we never know. But we're not here to talk about that, doom and gloom. Because I want to celebrate the Mega Drive. That's a console that is like closest to my heart. That and the Game Boy. So the Mega Drive was my first proper console because my older sister got a Master System before that, but I got the Mega Drive and saw a compilation, and I absolutely loved it. And I've never sold it. I've never sold any of my games or my hardware, but now I play it every week, multiple times a week, and homebrew is partly why. And so I've said to Martin about getting a stack of games that we want to talk about. So Martin, do you want to take us? Well, actually, no. So before we get to that, was there anything you wanted to add into the discussion before we get onto the games? Anything that I've not covered?
No, not massively. No, I mean, obviously the Mega Drive is our sort of our main system that we want to focus on. Although unlike you, I do collect for a lot of different systems. But yeah, Mega Drive definitely. But no, happy to move on to the next topic.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, great. Actually, I suppose I'll probably do a quick aside before we get into it. So, unless if I'm misremembering, the very first homebrew game that got a release, and I'm not talking about bootleg games from back when the console was current. I'm talking about where fans came together and released the game years after the fact. And this is a game that was made by what would become Watermelon, which, if you know the name, is very contentious because of the Paprium stuff. But the very first game was an RPG, which may not have been of the level and quality of, say, a proper, I would say, AAA release. But I haven't had a chance to try it. I will hope to one day. But Pier Solar, which, have you heard of that game, Martin?
Yes, I remember following it roughly when it was coming out, but I wasn't able to buy it at the time. I have a version of it now to play, but I've just not got round to it.
Because I know that did get ported to several consoles. So, but I do plan to hopefully play the original Mega Drive / Mega CD, because I think that I don't think it's a Mega CD game, but I think it came with a CD for enhanced audio if you had that. But I hope to play that one day. But yeah, so that was the first game, and that was when there was no development tools. There was nothing like the SGDK, so they had to just be great programmers to bring this together. But yeah, I think that was the first one, and then at the SGDK release, it kind of exploded. So, okay, Martin, what's the first game you would like to talk about?
So, first game I want to talk about is I want to go over a reissue more than a full-on homebrew game. So, I've got here in my hands. It's a game that originally came out in Japan only, and then got a Genesis release in America, albeit with a lot of changes to the storyline. And we never actually got it in PAL regions. And I'm sure you know exactly which game I'm going to go on about, but it's El Viento.
Indeed, yes.
So El Viento is a side-scrolling action game that was made by Telenet and Wolf Team, which was part of a trilogy of games, which also had Ernest Evans on the Mega CD and Genesis, and Annette Futatabi on the Mega CD, which are getting reissues themselves soon, which amusingly enough should hopefully be in my hands very shortly for the Sega CD, because they're American. There are actually a couple of ways of playing this nowadays, because there was a Telenet collection on the Evercade, which had El Viento on it, but obviously we're here to talk about the Mega Drive, and I have a Mega Drive copy in my hands, and in terms of physical quality, it's absolutely outstanding. It came with a full color manual, really nice box, and a slip case. It's got a reversible cover, so if you are completely deranged, you can make it look like the really dreadful Genesis cover instead of the lovely Japanese art. Instead, the cartridge is pink. It's got a really nice gloss finish to it, and I've also got you just hear the nice characteristic clunk of the box opening there. I've actually got a certificate of authenticity in it as well, and I got the 2,974th copy out of 3,400.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so it's a bit disappointing that it was limited, because obviously, in my opinion, these things should be available for all time, but I get why they're limited. But it also, this release actually works on a PAL console. It's completely optimized. I've not noticed any slowdown compared to NTSC. So to have this available in all regions now is a great reason to basically have hardware to play it on. So yeah, El Viento is my first game to talk about.
Excellent. Okay, so that's one that I have also tried. I haven't beaten it. I did intend to try and play through it all, but then got caught on other stuff. So, but yeah, that's a great choice. So the company in question is Limited Run Games, who we won't get into them, but I know that, I mean, I'm going to end up down a rabbit hole here. They have a bit of reputation for kind of their practices, but they have been responsible for the re-release of a lot of games that were no longer available. So they have done some good. It's just that I know there's also some bad they've done as well. But also the fact that, yeah, I was also excited about hearing about Ernest Evans and Annette Fujinabe for Sega CD, but they weren't going to do a PAL release. And for those who are unaware, so even though you have games that would work on both the Genesis and the Mega Drive, like El Viento, if you get a Sega CD game, it is highly unlikely that unless if you use like a region BIOS changing tool or something, that you will not be able to play it on a PAL Mega CD. So I didn't pick this up because I won't be able to play them. But yeah, so okay. The first game that I want to talk about, I think, might be the first game that... what's going to be the best way to phrase it? So I've already said this is not the first homebrew game that came out, because that was Pier Solo. But I class this as maybe the first game that came out of the current wave of homebrew games. And I'm talking about Xenocrisis. So this is from the company Bitmap Bureau. And the first port they did, or the first version, because it's now been ported, I think, to nearly every console available, was to the Mega Drive. But it's been now ported to, let's see, SNES, Neo Geo, Game Boy Advance, let's see, it's got modern consoles, GameCube, N64, like they've got ports of it now as well. But the original was on the Mega Drive. And for those who don't know, actually, I will read it from the back of the box. Xenocrisis is an arena shooter in which up to 2 players enter a ravaged research colony to confront an alien menace and get out alive. Run and gun your way through thousands of adversaries as you search for the source of the deadly alien outbreak. So it's one that you're also familiar as well, isn't it, Martin?
It is indeed. I think the best way you can describe it to people is it's a new alien version of Smash TV.
Exactly. Definitely. And Bitmap Bureau would then go on to release several more games, and the most recent one they've got coming out is actually based on the Terminator franchise, which, from what I've seen, has some brilliant artwork on it, and it looks like it should be a very faithful adaptation of the source material.
Yes, I actually had the pleasure of being able to talk to one of the devs while I was at a computer fair earlier in the year, who is working for Bitmap Bureau, and we were actually talking about, just to go off on a slight tangent, some of the people involved in the original film. They've managed to get the likenesses for pretty much everybody except for Arnie, so that's going to be quite exciting.
Oh, excellent. And fine enough, unless if they've moved, their office is actually just down the road from me, but I've yet to find a good excuse for why they should let me come and visit. But you never know. So, okay, but other games that they have done was Final Vendetta, which got releases on Switch, PC, PS4, PS5, and Xbox. I think it was on Xbox, but then also they did a Neo Geo port as well, which is coming out. But okay, Martin, do you want to talk about your next game?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go over one that I know you don't have on your shelf, so it won't cross over with anything you're going to talk about. I've actually got a Kickstarter edition in my hands because I actually backed this one, and it's from Neofid Studios, who would go on, who had already done Demons of Astorborg, which I know is a game that you've got. I don't have it yet, but I have played it. The game in question is Demon Claw: Origins of Nar. Which is a Well, it's a side-scrolling action game again. You're noticing a theme here in games I like.
Yes.
It's a really, really good fun game with some gorgeous pixel art. And again, it's an NTSC and PAL compatible cartridge. The box on the back actually tells you as such. It is 2-player as well if you want to play it 2 players. And rather amusingly, I mentioned Demons of Asterborg. The main character, Gareth, is actually a playable character in this as a secondary
Which is exclusive to the Mega Drive port.
Yes. But again, it's a really nice release with a color manual, a little leaflet. The cartridges are plain black, like a normal one, but with nice art. And there's also a few trading cards as well in it, which I haven't opened because obviously I want to try and keep them pristine. But, you know, just a nice little addition to an overall physical package. But again, this is, you know, homebrew devs who are basically just going away and making some absolutely fantastic games and then giving us these physical copies for us to have on our shelf that we can just play like 90 years from now if we're still alive at 130 or whatever.
Unlikely. But our children or grandchildren can.
They'll have to prize it off my cold dead body.
Oh, you'll be buried with it.
But yes, so that's Demon Claw.
Awesome. Okay. So the next game that I want to talk about is one that's called Tanglewood. So I first heard about this game because, like, randomly, because I don't normally watch it, but randomly I had on TV, try to remember the name of the show, but like BBC, and it was either like BBC News or like one of the like tech shows, and it was like a thing on like a Saturday or Sunday morning, and they had an interview with like the main dev of this game, and he was talking about how he came about making it, because he just started, like, didn't really have any experience like trying to make a Mega Drive game or anything, but he just decided, oh, you know, let's give it a go. And he started writing like a series of like posts about like creating a Mega Drive game, like learning assembly or something along those lines. And then Tanglewood is the result. I think the first release might have been done like by himself, but since then it's been taken on by Mega Cat Studios. And to read from the back of the box: welcome to Tanglewood, a beautiful place during the day, home to thick green forests, vast landscapes, refreshing water pools, and a whole variety of interesting wildlife. But at night, everything changes. Help Nim, a youngling who is lost from home, avoid the night terrors of Tanglewood and make it through to morning. Obtain powers to fly, stop time and take control of enemies from the forest dwellers. Use tricks, traps, and the powers of the forest to conquer the night. Because you play as a fox. Yep, in this game you play as a fox going through the forest. And, you know, it has some gorgeous art. I've tried it, but I've not actually played through it properly. This is a game that I really do need to put some time to, but time. So, because I think you can also buy this at least on Steam as well. So if you don't have a Mega Drive, but it sounds interesting, you can get a modern like way of playing it. Because this is what I think that you said that you've heard of but haven't got, Martin.
No, I actually do have it physically on the shelf.
Yeah.
So, funny story about Tanglewood. It was actually the very first homebrew / indie game I ever bought for the Mega Drive.
Oh, really? I thought that would be the first one.
Yeah, so I'd been out of the community for a long time due to moves and just not having anyone around me like that really played games. Like all my friends don't really play video games very much, as in my real life friends, of course.
Of course.
Of course. And I actually joined X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, several years ago, and started learning about all this cool homebrew stuff. And around the same time, I was starting to see an increase in my bank balance due to having worked at my company for so long. And I think I just, on a whim, bought Tanglewood. And I played it through to about the halfway point where there's a big shift in the game that I'm not going to spoil for you because it's absolutely brilliant. And it is a really, really good game. So I'm glad I bought it, to be honest with you. But yeah, I've got it on the shelf. I can see it from where I'm sat right here.
Oh, excellent. Because initially I was umming and ahhing about whether or not to get the, like, buy it on Steam and then download the ROM, or to buy the physical. And I kept going back and forth, and I was like, nah, just buy the physical. And I'm glad I did, because I wish I could buy more physical, but I am limited in the space I have, but also then it costs a lot more money. So, like, I will randomly go and buy like a bunch of ROMs from itch.io just to try, because I like to show them off as well. But if I was to buy them all physically, I'd be very, very broke. But there are some games where I try and I'm like, no, I have to physically have this. It is such a good game. And so by the sounds of it, this will be like that. So that'd be good. So do you want to cover your next game, Martin?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm afraid I may have to steal your thunder because it's the only one game I have of this type. Sure. So I apologize in advance, but I was going to talk about Shadowrun.
It wasn't on my list, but by all means.
Sorry, mate. So Shadowrun is a game that actually did come out back in the day, albeit it only came out in America for the Genesis. I have no idea why it didn't come out over here, but that's by the by. It's basically like a top-down action / RPG. I mean, mostly the RPG style, but it's really, really good fun. Anyone that doesn't really know the Shadowrun universe, it's think cyberpunk style with people who've got like electronic parts wired into them, and it's all about hacking. And there's even like a little mini hacking mini game in there, which plays a little bit like Phantasy Stars battles. And the thing that I will apologise to John for stealing his thunder, because this was actually John's idea, was a was a homebrew physical of a PAL converted version of Shadowrun. Because Shadowrun's not exactly the swiftest game of all time, so playing this PAL version, I've not noticed any optimization issues with it whatsoever. So it probably runs at like 20 or 30 frames per second anyway. So the change to PAL hasn't really done anything to it, but. Following the conversion, someone's obviously put it onto a cartridge, done a really nice color manual and a lovely box, which has got that cool blue Mega Drive border on it. Not that ugly red Genesis stuff.
Sorry, Genesis fans.
Sorry, Genesis. I do love your console. I just don't like your red borders.
Blue is my favorite color, so.
But it looks really, really nice. It plays amazingly. And again, it's a way of allowing people to be able to play a game that they couldn't back in the day unless they'd chipped their console, which my family would never have been able to afford. So I was stuck with stock PAL and only being able to play what I could find on a shelf. So, this is another good reason to have these things. It just opens up so many more things for people to play through the ingenuity and time and effort of homebrew developers.
Because one thing I will add to that is it's not just a PAL version of the game. There was more that's done to it. So there is available online a fan patch that makes some changes to the game, because there was either some bugs and some things that need tweaking. So it takes that, and then also there's some changes that I made, which is to increase the amount of starting cash you get, and also the starting size of the clip for your weapon, just to try and make the very beginning of the game a bit easier, so you could buy some more gear. But then also, if you were to just take that ROM, like one with the fan patch and my changes, and just try and say play it on PAL hardware, it will come up saying that it's like a checksum error. So then also it's being patched to get rid of that, so that it can then run correctly. So doesn't require a lot of technical know-how. It's just free tools online to do. But the people who made that fan patch, those are the ones who put in the proper work of like delving into the code of the game to figure it out. But it's just because I love like Shadowrun as a setting, because one thing that Martin didn't say was that it is a hybrid between cyberpunk and fantasy, because it has elves, trolls, orcs, dwarfs, all that, and dragons. But then, people are got cyber enhancements along with shooting guns and flinging magic. So, because it's started life as a tabletop RPG, which is still going and it's still got books coming out for, but we haven't had a lot of games for. Like, there was one for the SNES, one for the Mega Drive, Genesis, one for the Mega CD, which is still a Japanese exclusive, but there is a fan translation project on. It's very slow going through, but fingers crossed we'll get that one day. And there was a FPS from Microsoft for some reason, And then we've had a trilogy of games which take it back more to its tabletop kind of roots. Let's start with Shadowrun Returns, Dragonfall, and I can't remember the name of the last one, but yeah, so that's the trilogy that they got released for modern consoles and PC. Yeah, so sorry, I took over there, Martin.
That's all right. I should have mentioned some of that in the first place, but I was trying to keep it somewhat succinct. But what game are you going to introduce next?
So, I mean, you've already mentioned it, but it's another one that I feel like should definitely be included because of its place in the history of homebrew releases, which is Demons of Asterborg. And so this was the first release for Neofit Studios. And this is kind of what then set them up to then go and do more, because they've become kind of like the go-to for homebrew like games, like with Demon Claw. I'm never sure how to pronounce that. Like that got like a multi kind of release for also like the Neo Geo as well, but Neofit handled the Mega Drive port. Because I'll have another one of their games I'm going to talk about soon, but I will read out the back of the box of this one. Demons of Asterborg is an action platform game with Metroidvania elements. Players Gareth and stop the plague on Asterborg by scouring its different areas and eliminating the dangerous enemies that will rise against you. The other thing as well is that, because I've talked about using a flash cartridge, you can buy the ROM version of this, but some of these games are so large that the cheaper range of flash cartridges will not actually support these. Just be aware. So, for example, if you have an old style EverDrive, or if you have one of the cheaper EverDrives out the current line, they will only support ROM sizes of up to like 4 meg, I believe it is. Whereas there were certain games, which was Street Fighter 2, well, those two like became larger and it had to have a special like mapper to allow it to work. And so for that to work on like EverDrive or flash cartridges, they need to support that. So just be aware, if you're going to go down by the ROM and want to play it on the original hardware, you need to have a flash cartridge that supports it. But yeah, so but I felt it was important to include this one, and I think we'll probably have all three of their releases because I've got the other one and you've got the latest. But it's one of the big developers for the Mega Drive, and it's important it's included. Okay, your next game, Martin.
So I'm going to go on another one that's technically a reissue, and it's one of the more recent ones. And this has come from Ratalaika Games and Xhojn, the latter of who are actually doing a re-release of the Game Gear game Griffin on modern platforms for what that's worth. And the game I've got in my hand is Tracia, which is a sort of top-down one-player RPG, which I've been told is not all that amazing. I had a few people say that I probably shouldn't bother buying it, but I'm a sucker for having...
He included.
Yes, I wonder who that was. But I'm a sucker for having things on my shelf, of course, and I ended up just buying it anyway. Amusingly enough, I ended up getting an Evercade cartridge that also had it on after I'd got this, but, that's by the by. Now, one thing that is rather important with this one is, again, it only came out in Japan and America originally. We never had a PAL release. And the people that made this, mainly, so Xhojn specifically, I believe, they've actually translated this into Spanish as well. So there's not just a new English re-release, but they've also made it accessible to Spanish speakers. Because one thing, obviously, you and I do is we're only interested in things in English, obviously, because that's the language we speak. But a lot of these re-releases and other things are actually allowing people from other parts of the world to actually play in their native languages now, which is really, really important. And the other thing with Tracia, which makes it quite important, is there's artwork or art done in it by Mahiro Maeda, who also did a lot of work on two things that I know, one thing I know you definitely enjoy, one I don't know, but you probably will. One of which is Neon Genesis Evangelion, and the other was Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind.
Yes.
So quite an important artist there.
Yeah, because I heard about Neon Genesis, because of course you do, being on the internet. But when it then got the re-release via Netflix, was when my first child was born. So I came home from the hospital, and then me and my wife were taking turns each night to like stay up and like be with him, like, because the sleeping pattern and all that. So he would be lying on my chest, like literally a couple of days old, and I would just be like binging through Eon Genesis. So I'm not sure if I've been kind of forming some core memories that he's not even aware of like Shinji getting into his mech. And
but Neon Genesis Evangelion's not a mech anime, say the fans.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
but when my youngest, the next child, was born, was then when they just finished the rebuild films. So they did a collection of 4 new films covering and then going beyond the original series. And so I same thing with my second child, watching those 4. Yeah, it's like poetry. It rhymes.
I'm only just watching it for the first time at the moment.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
I never got around to watching it back in the day, so I've only just started. It was one that I just didn't bother watching for some reason.
So this is not an anime podcast, but briefly, what do you think of it so far?
It's good. It's good. Yeah, sorry. It's enjoyable. I'm only about 7 or 8 episodes in, but I'm certainly wanting to continue, and then I'll probably end up watching the films afterwards as well. Anyway.
Yes, because you have the 26 episode series, which technically gives its own ending, but because of the reaction to the ending, then they did 2 films back in the day. The first one is kind of like a redo of the first majority, like a big chunk of the series. So it kind of gives you like a brief like catch up, and then you have the second film, which is the actual carry-on, End of Evangelion, which has its own ending. A different ending from the ending of the series. And then you have the rebuild films, which the first 2 are primarily like the show, but there are differences. And then the third, the fourth go off in their own direction. And then that's meant to be the end of all of Evangelion. Apparently there's also a manga which has its own ending, so like it all ties in together if you follow it. And apologize to all of the listeners who are like going, what the heck are they talking about anime? Get back to the games.
Well, to bring it back on topic, obviously Evangelion was made by Gainax, who of course did the art for, I believe, Alicia Dragoon on the Mega Drive. There you go, back on topic.
Okay, great. Yes. So you picked up an RPG which is not being that well regarded. I mean, the artwork I saw, the artwork was nice, as in not the in-game artwork, but from the artist that you said, I can't remember their name, but what I heard about the game itself was a bit like meh in gameplay wise. I'm like, RPGs are not known for being short, so if I'm going to dedicate that much time, I want to know I'll enjoy it, because I love me an RPG, but especially with the cost of buying these kind of re-releases, I need to know I will get my money's worth. So, go on.
Yeah, no, fair. Right. I assume it's over to you for the next one then.
Cool. Okay, great. Next one is a game that was very highly anticipated, and I'm glad it came out where it did, because I feel like if it was to get released right now, it'd probably get overshadowed. And when I say the name, you'll probably realize why. ZPF.
Woo, great game.
Mm-hmm. So this is a game that, like, I never heard about when it first got announced years ago, like when the devs were like showing it off. Because then eventually it got picked up by Mega Cat Studios to do the publishing of it, and they did a Kickstarter. But I think, I think before that it was just kind of like languishing in like, oh, is this game not done yet? But the Kickstarter then kind of pushed it to get completed. And so from the back of the box, inspired by classic games like Laws of Thunder, Elemental Master, and Thunder Force 3 and 4, ZPF is a horizontal shoot-'em-up that combines fantasy and sci-fi elements into one epic adventure, with themes ranging from lush fantasy realms to dystopian futures and alien-infested space. ZPF offers a rich, varied gameplay experience where you'll face off against unique enemies and battle a gauntlet of wicked 16-bit bosses. Yes, so when I heard about it coming out, I wasn't sure if I wanted to back it, because there are a lot of shmups. Like, you can't swing a cat around the homebrew scene without hitting a shmup like 5 times. But the demo was accidentally put up on Megacat's website. I downloaded it as soon as I could, and just to see what all the fuss was about. And I had a blast. I loved it. So as soon as the Kickstarter went live, I was straight in there backing it. I haven't played it yet, but I know I'll enjoy the main game itself. But I alluded to earlier on, which I have bought via Steam, but I'm waiting for the Mega Drive to get its actual release, because it will get overshadowed by... Do you want to announce the game, Martin?
See, I would, but I actually don't recall which one you're on about, so I'm going to let you do it.
Earthian!
Oh, yes, of course. What? How could I forget that? Oh, I need to hand in my retro credentials. Yes,
What is
that was
Earthian?
Earthion. I knew that.
Please tell our listeners about Earthian and why I have, bigged it up so much.
Well, Earthion is, of course, mostly known for the fact that it's being developed by Yuzo Koshiro of ancient fame, and who did all the music for stuff like Streets of Rage, Revenge of Shinobi, etc., etc. Like, he needs no introduction. Legendary chap. And there's been an awful lot of PR over it, including showing off some of the absolutely gorgeous sprite work, including some sort of rotation and depth effects that you wouldn't have thought possible on the Mega Drive. And of course, it's already been released on everything else, but we're still waiting for the Mega Drive version. But yes, there's been an awful lot of fanfare for Earthion, but ZPF has served quite nicely in the interim, I think.
Because when Earthion got announced, and then it was then announced that the Mega Drive would be the very last port to be released, there was some upset in the community, because it felt like we're paying the premium for this, but we're the last ones to get it. But then Yuzo Koshiro then clarified that, saying, like, there is no way to update these games once they go out. I mean, technically, if you get you can get a device that you could put to your computer to put a cartridge in and reflash the PCB, but let's be honest, 99% of people aren't going to be doing that. So he wants the version that goes out to be completely bug-free and have any features they feel like had to be added post the digital release, because it's Earthian has been released on Steam. I can't remember if it's been digitally released on, like, say, the PlayStation or not. I think it might have, but I know that Limited Run Games have done the pre-order for the physical run, not of the Mega Drive, but they've done the console, like the modern console releases. Limited Run Games were going to be the only publisher for the Mega Drive / Genesis port, but there is now a European publisher as well, because, I don't want to pay to have it come over from, the States, but also, like, the issues that we talked briefly about earlier on from Limited Run Games, I'd rather pick a publisher who is far closer to me. But yeah, we're looking forward to that one. So yes, so even though I own it on Steam because I wanted to support Ancient, I haven't actually played it yet. So until I get my Mega Drive port. And with that, we're back over to you, Martin.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if it's one you were going to cover again, but I'm going to swing back to Bitmap Bureau, and I'll explain why in a minute. And I'm going to talk about Life on Mars.
Ah, right. So, okay, that's not Bitmap Bureau, I'm afraid.
Was it not Bitmap Bureau? I thought it was.
That's Kai Magazine.
That was it, Kai Magazine Software, of course, who have some controversy I'm sure you will go over in a minute, but...
Which is why I did pick their games, but please continue.
Well, I was going to continue for one particular reason, because obviously I don't think any of the controversy has actually gone over to any of the artwork from Life on Mars specifically. I could be wrong there. But the reason I picked Life on Mars is because it actually plugs a gap in the Mega Drive library. Because the Mega Drive has very few point and clicks, and it has very few Metroidvanias. In fact, I think the only games that could really claim to be even remotely Metroidvania on the system are Wonder Boy and Monster World and Quackshot. And Life on Mars plugged that gap quite nicely with a very, very nice looking side-scrolling action shooter that also has that sort of gated open world, so to speak, sort of gameplay. And it had some brilliant music and atmospheric effects as well. And it almost felt like we were having our own version of Metroid from Nintendo systems on a Sega system. So that was the reason I wanted to bring that one up specifically. But I don't know if you wanted to go over the sort of controversy that's recently surrounded Kai Magazine software.
So before I go over that, I'll just add to what you said. So I haven't heard of Kai Magazine. Actually, no, that's a lie. I had heard of it, but I didn't remember them. They did a game called Dragon something or other. You've got it as well, Martin, but it is kind of like a vertical kind of like, when I say shooter is in like, I am like Commando on the Master System is where my mind is going to, where you're going up the screen and you've got your gun and you're like shooting waves of bad guys as you try to get through the levels. That was their first game, and the second game was then Life on Mars. I then played the demo and I really enjoyed it. I've played it, completed it, and the game has some like, okay, first of all, the game can be completed in 3 to 4 hours. So there are people who didn't like the fact that it was so short, and I do understand that. Personally, I like the fact it didn't overstay its welcome. The other thing as well is that at the beginning of the game, it can be a bit difficult. Like I just kind of grinded a bit. Like I just kept going back and forth between screens, shooting a bunch of enemies to get like the currency to then buy upgrades to make myself more powerful. But through the rest of the game, I was having a blast. I really enjoyed it. I mean, because have you completed it yet, Martin? Well, it sounds like you have, but for the listeners.
Yeah, no, I have, but only on normal mode. So I believe if you play on hard, it does have a special ending that ties into its sequel, but that's by the by.
Sure. Okay, I have not beaten hard mode, so I don't think I've seen that. Yeah. But then they did a sequel called Life on Earth. Again, I played the demo for that, and then again, I really enjoyed it. I thought it had a gorgeous art style with it. This game is more of a run and gun compared to the Metroidvania style of Life on Mars. And yeah, I got that. I completed that, and oh, believe me, when I beat the game, I was very drunk on whiskey because I was just having to like push through like some sections which were very difficult. But yeah, and then they after that did Secret of the Four Winds, which is their most recent release, which is an RPG. But then they did a pre-order for a game which the name escapes me, but it's kind of trying to be like oh, tell me, Martin, why am I forgetting the name? The cowboy game.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is either, but it was sort of like a weird version of Sunset Riders, wasn't it?
Thank you, Sunset Riders. That's not the name of the game they're making, but as in what it's inspired by.
Yeah, I can't remember what the new one was. It no, I can't even remember what it was called.
No,
I know Metal Dragon was the one they did at the first. That was the
Metal Dragon. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but the controversy is that it's come to light that there is stolen artwork in the games. So, and that there's a YouTuber who did a video showing side-by-side screenshots where there's scenes from other games which have then been altered, but they're unmistakably from these games. And I don't think Kai Magazine has actually given an official proper response to it. So, which is, I don't know how that's affected their latest games pre-orders, but I know before that there was like always a lot of buzz about their releases, and I follow Kai Magazine on Twitter, and when it would come like putting the physical games together to send out, like you would just see like a wall with just covered in like stacks of Mega Drive boxes. Waiting to be put together with like the case, with the cartridges and the manuals and all that. So, yeah. So, but you are right in the sense of that we do more Metroidvanias. There is actually a homebrew game being developed, which is meant to be a port of Metroid, but I think they've renamed it and changed some of it due to not wanting to be slapped down by Nintendo.
Yeah, I think they've called it like Space Hunter or something like
Yeah.
that, just to get around it. But the demo did seem really, really good. To answer your earlier question, the new Kymag software game was meant to be Death and Lead.
That was it, Death and Lead. Thank you. Yes. So, yeah. Okay, so we'll see if this controversy is the death of that company or not, because they do not do digital version of their games. It is physical or nothing, which with Secret of the Four Winds is because they did an extra chip on the cartridge to emulate having a Mega CD, so you can have a CD quality soundtrack without the need for a Mega CD, and that's what they're doing with Death and Lead. So, but before that,
we don't really want to lose that.
Yeah, we've got Mega CD, we're fine. But with the early games, they didn't do digital either. So, okay, right, my next game. So, I will swing it back to Neophyte Studios. And that was their second release, which was Astabros. Astabros is a roguelike game about the beginnings of the Kingdom of Astaborg. Choose your hero among 3 different characters and go through procedural dungeons to eliminate your formidable opponents. So, in this game, you have a choice between a mage, a archer, and a knight. So, in other words, use a sword, use a bow, or use magic to get through. But it's 2 players, so you can play 2 of the characters. And when the Kickstarter for this came out, I was like, okay. I hadn't actually played Demons of Astaborg, so I was like, I'm not going to put down the money. But then they released a demo after the Kickstarter, and I played it with a friend of mine, did 2 play, and I was like, oh, this is really good. And so as soon as they put a pre-order up, I had to get it. I still have not played it, but it's one that just from trying the demo alone, I was like, I had to have this. I had to have on the shelf to play, and I'm looking forward to play it, but I need to complete Demons of Astaborg first. Because I think you've also got this one as well, Martin?
No, again, it's one I haven't got round to buying just yet, for money reasons and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have played it, and yeah, it is really, really good. But I'm hoping to get a physical of it at some point.
And for those curious who like the sound of the Neophyte games, so kind of like a trilogy of Demons of Astaborg, Astabros, and Demon Claw, it was announced today or yesterday that Neophyte are doing a special collection of the 3 Mega Drive games, which you can get with a big discount to buy the 3 together. If you want the first 2 games, you can. They have been released on modern consoles as a double pack. So there are ways, even if you don't have a Mega Drive, to play them. Yeah. So, Martin, do you have another pick for us?
I do. I'm having to pick ones that I don't actually have to hand at the moment. But the next one I was going to go on was Water Margin, The Tales of Clouds and Winds. This is a side-scrolling beat-em-up. So think Streets Raid, Golden Axe, the usual. And it did actually come out back in the day in 1996, but only in Taiwan. So that's why this one is quite important, because it's basically a re-release that, I say recently come out. It's been out a few years now, I think, but it's now allowing people all around the world to experience this game from what back in the day would have been a relatively closed-off region where a lot of information about it wouldn't have gotten out. I mean, I'd certainly never heard about it. And it's a relatively decent beat 'em up. It's got its issues. It's certainly not going to reach the heights of Streets of Rage, but just to, again, have a physical cartridge that we can now play around the world of something that didn't come out everywhere back in the day is just fantastic.
Definitely, because this is a game that I bought on Steam and then put the ROM onto my EverDrive, and then I actually played it through 2-player with a friend of mine. So, yeah, again, even though I've been talking about getting physical games, you can still support the publishers by buying this and then still play on actual hardware, even if you just buy the ROM on a Steam sale. And yeah, I don't know necessarily if I want to have the physical of this one, but I'm glad that I at least could buy it. It's when it goes on sale, it's a good way to try it before you buy a physical in that kind of sense. So yeah, look at ways that you could try and support the devs if you can. And my next game is The Cursed Knight by GGS Studio Creation. Year 3122. After the fall of our civilization, the Earth has become the Principality of Dalungville, ruled by the King Ulberic. Ancient technologies are now myths. AIs have become gods, and ancient warriors have turned into legends. With 5 million inhabitants, Dalungville is the last bastion of humanity. Its handful of genetically modified soldiers are continually at war against invaders from all over the galaxy. Play as Calder, the Protector Knight, a genetically modified and enhanced human who worships the AI Skull, now called Skull God. Following a confrontation that has not ended well, he is going to try and bring his sweetheart, the Princess of Dalungville, back to life, while risking his life on a journey at the boundaries of the galaxy. The Cursed Knight is an action platform shoot-'em-up game based on a die and retry style and made with love and passion to pay tribute to the games made in the 90s. So this is a game that was kickstarted a couple of years back. I played the demo, I enjoyed it, but I didn't actually support the Kickstarter at the time because I didn't really think I could afford it. But I then bought it because then they got a publisher, Broke Studio. In case if you hear extra noise in the background, my dog has come to say hello. So I picked up the full release of Broke Studio. It does have a password system. So even if you can't beat the game in one sitting, you can come back to it later. I think I've read that, though, if you don't beat it in one go, you don't get as good an ending, but I could be mistaken on that. But the game is a run and gun. So if you kind of think in the style of Mega Man, but then during the second level, you then get an ability that means that you can flip gravity. So then you can go to the top of the bottom of the screen, which gets give it an extra element. I think it also has some kind of shmup sections as well. But is this one that you tried, Martin?
Yeah, I do actually own the physical for this one as well. I didn't back the Kickstarter, but I picked up a copy afterwards, so I had to wait a little while for it to come through. But it's very much like a Mega Man game, isn't it, in the way it plays?
Yes, it is.
I found it incredibly difficult. So I haven't actually progressed that far on it. I think I managed 2 or 3 stages at most, but what I have played of it, I really, really did enjoy. So I do need to sort of get into it. But when you were saying about Skull God, it just reminded me of Saw Boss from Jason Wheel Warriors back in the day, for everyone that's old enough to remember that.
I remember that.
It just has the same sort of like really dull but still sinister sounding name to it.
Our childhoods.
They were the best.
Yeah. Do you have another game for us?
I actually do. So I've got something a little bit different here. This is another physical release that I did pick up. And the best thing I can do to describe this game before I reveal what the name is it's very much like Desert Strike if you were a farmer.
Yes.
And I'm talking about Farming Simulator 16-bit edition by 3 Giant Software. Now, I picked this up on a bit of a whim just because it was something a little bit different. I thought if the kids walk in on me playing this, it's not going to be a major problem, unless I'm cutting the head of stalk and, they start screaming or something like that. But the reason I likened it to Desert Strike is graphically it uses that sort of, I want to say it's not rotoscoped, but it's like they filmed it and then they've just pixeled over it style, and it's isometric. But effectively, it is exactly what you think it is. It's you plant seeds in, you sow your plow your plot, you sow your seeds, you let it grow, you then pick it up and then you sell it, and you use the proceeds to either buy a new farm when you've got enough, or new equipment, or whatever, and you have to buy fuel. So it's very simple. It's not exactly going to win any Game of the Year awards. It's probably not much more than a 6 or a 7 out of 10 game, but it's something very, very different on the system. And it has a soundtrack by Chris Hulsbeck, who's well known for doing the music for the Turrican series back in the day.
Because I saw this being advertised and I thought, it does look interesting, but I couldn't justify picking it up, if I'm honest. But I'm glad that exists. It's just that I'm never really been that into like those sim style games. But I know that the game is based on is very popular within those who like that style of genre. So again, I'm glad it exists. It's fantastic to see something like it being brought to the Mega Drive, even though that I know it's probably not the kind of game that I would enjoy myself.
Yeah, I mean, the physical edition was really, really nice. It came with a soundtrack, which is great. The cartridge is a nice green color, so it's something a little bit different. And the inside of the box actually gives you a URL and a product key, so you can actually get a digital download for the ROM and the soundtrack as well. So that's quite nice.
Nice. So it's also good when they do like extras with the games as well, as long as it doesn't jack up the price of the game itself because to pay for all these bits and pieces. But otherwise, they're good add-ons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Soundtrack's brilliant.
Yep, because the last game that I have to talk about actually came with, I think it came with a soundtrack as well. And it is the sequel to The Cursed Knight, and it is The Cursed Legacy. So again, before the Kickstarter was announced or went live, should I say, they put a demo out. So I was like, I'll give it a try, but I wasn't really planning on picking it up because I haven't actually beat the first game. But then I played the demo. I was like, actually, I'm having a lot of fun with this. I'm going to back it. So, year 3145. The human race has practically disappeared from the universe. The Principality of Daggerville, the last bastion of humanity, no longer exists. It was the scene of the worst abuses. In these tormented times, the young mercenary Leaf survives by committing the worst misdeeds. Always in search of power, he will try to steal the RB-309 in one of the oases of the Cube God. Will you be brave enough to join him in this odyssey? The Cursed Legacy is an action exploration game based on the die and retry genre and made with love and passion to pay tribute to the games of the 90s. It also offers mini games that give this work an infinite lifespan. I'm not sure if I would agree with the infinite lifespan, but yeah, so I got this from the Kickstarter compared to the previous game, and I'm just opening the case up. And this one actually has a cool, like, transparent, like, red clamshell cartridge. And the PCB has actually got Broke Studio, the publishers, and some nice artwork on there as well. So I haven't actually been opening these all up to take a look at what the cartridges look like, but I just remember this one coming with some extra bits and pieces, like a poster and a soundtrack. Yeah, so it's always nice when you see like the devs or the publishers putting in extra work. Because I've never really been a fan of like collector's editions. Like, I haven't got space to put statues up, and you've got this big box where you can put it. But if they can add in things that either can be stored in the case as well with the manual, or something like a CD, then yeah, I think that's quite nice.
No, I agree with you on that one. I think certainly having collectibles but that are compact definitely make it a more of a lucrative thing to get. Like when you've just got these absolutely massive collector's editions which come with like towels and t-shirts and dioramas and all that, they're really, really nice if you've got like a dedicated space to them. But when you don't, but you like these things quite a lot, all you want the game, and you might want a soundtrack, and that's your lot. And when it can come in that sort of compact size, it's really, really good. And I definitely agree with when things like they put effort into things like PCBs. I mean, I think we're sort of done in terms of like the games we were going to talk about, but I was having a quick look at the Eliminate Down reissue, and the inside of the PCB has actually got the name of the game in Japanese characters actually written onto the PCB on the back. And unlike a lot of Mega Drive cartridges, there's actually a sticker on the rear of the cartridge just underneath the two screws, which has got like a sort of pixely, well, not even pixely, art of the ship from the game on it, as well as the creators. So again, it's just like a nice little flourish that makes these editions just that more worth buying instead of just having a ROM on a screen.
Exactly. I think it's nice to see the effort that's put into these things. Like, it can be like such a passion project at times. Cool. Okay, so sorry, you going to say something?
No, I was just going to mention it's really nice when they come with like reversible covers on the cases as well, because then you can display different artwork from different regions depending on what your preference is. So that's usually quite a nice little add-on that a lot of devs do with these homebrew releases.
Exactly, yeah, because for what I've seen, it tends to be like if it's a PAL release, it'll be the blue artwork, or it'll be the black artwork, or it'll be the blue of the PAL and the red of the Genesis and TSC. But I know that with Secret of the Four Winds, it was actually two different art styles. One was like kind of like an anime kind of aesthetic, whereas the other was more kind of Western style. So yeah, it's always interesting to see like with artwork what they do with that. Cool. And I think that kind of brings us to the end. So I mean, hopefully you've enjoyed hearing about some homebrew and aftermarket games. And honestly, like if you look at some of the, like if you get into like retro collecting and take a look at the original libraries of these consoles and think they're a bit expensive now, well, you can quite easily have enough games to see you through like the entire year, like and beyond, just by going down the homebrew scene. And say if you have a flash cartridge like an EverDrive, you will have more games than you might ever need for the rest of your life potentially, as long as you don't mind them being like 16-bit. But
why would we mind? Like 16-bit is the pinnacle. But no, I definitely agree with price. I'm just having a look at Eliminate Down, and I don't have nearly £1,500 to spend on an original copy. I'll settle for the 50-60 quid I spent on the reissue.
Exactly, and that's going to climb in price because that was a one-off release as well. Yeah, exactly. So I hope everyone listening has enjoyed, and hopefully soon enough we'll have Lanceroy back. If not, may the AI bot posing as Lanceroy is benevolent towards us in case if he turns into one of the AI gods spoken of in The Cursed Knight. Right, so I have been John, aka John on Discord, and with me has been Martin.
Yeah, who goes by Retro Martin on whatever you can find me on.
Or the Retro Martin.
Yes.
Cool. Great. And I believe that the next episode will be another Pixel one, but we will see. Cool. Thank you for listening, and take care, everyone. Say goodbye, Martin.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, folks, that's game over for this episode of Retro Reloaded. Thanks for joining me on this retro adventure. If you loved today's trip down memory lane, then consider helping me keep the nostalgia alive by supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/retro reloaded. You'll get early episodes, bonus content, and a chance to pick the next game that we reload. Feel free to let me know your thoughts about the podcast, and until next time, keep those controllers charged.